Welcome to day 2 of judging for ETHOnline. Kind of the amazing thing about this event is that we had over 710 hackers from 65 different countries spanning 19 different time zones participate over the last few weeks. And last Thursday, which is about 3 days ago, we had the submission deadline and we got 175 projects through the event. And what we're doing over the next couple of days is going through a lot of these projects and these demos and recording these and kind of walking through all the demos so we can highlight some of our favorite ones this coming Friday, October the 30th in our finale. So before we kind of jump into how this call is structured and the demos themselves, I want to just go over the judging format. So each team here will have 8 minutes in total for their demos. They'll have 4 minutes to go over their videos, and then there'll be a 4-minute section for Q&A from our judges. And for kind of just to make sure that we give everybody a break, as there are a lot of projects, we'll do a quick break halfway through our demos. In terms of kind of how the judges will be scoring these projects, they will be scored on how technical, original, and practical their project is, along with the design aspects of their demo, whether that's a web app or a developer tool. And then we also recognize that not all categories are fair for every team, and there are going to be different ways to look at different projects and different members. We also have a catch-all for a call wow factor that helps us sort of offset anything that we may have missed from the 4 categories above. So before we go into our demos, I want to just make sure I emphasize that this is not a competition. The goal for ETHOnline and ETHGlobal in general is to do events and encourage people to learn. And there are no expectations or goals for people to become businesses. So they are very much interested in learning and experimentation. And the hackers are here primarily to get feedback. And this is kind of the perspective our judges will be taking too. And speaking of that, the 3 people that will be helping us today are going to be Justin from GridPlus, we have Barney from Vega Protocol, and Ashleigh from Uniswap. So I want to welcome all 3 of them here. With that, let's go jump into the demos directly. So we have our first team already ready, and Abhishek, I believe, is there. So you are kind of free to kick us off with your demo, and we'll jump right into the first demo for today.
Sweet, thank you. Let me just share my screen real quick. Sorry about that.
My name is Abhishek, and this is NiftyCrates. So what is a NiftyCrate? A NiftyCrate is a container for your NFTs that can serve as a loot box, and this is NiftyCrates. So what is a NiftyCrate? A NiftyCrate is a container for your NFTs that can serve as a loot box. It's ERC 721 compliant, so you can trade it. Basically, you can open the crate to get a prize, or you can buy an entire crate outright. And the owner of the crate can set up all the prices, the contents, the settings, everything about the crate. So the problem we're solving is that usually people have a lot of NFTs that are very common, hard to sell, and only a few that are valuable. And people want to liquidate their tokens for as much ETH as possible. So combining multiple tokens and using the randomized nature of loot boxes can encourage multiple purchases and help people maximize their profit. So how it works is you buy a Nifty crate and you put some NFTs into the crate. Then you can set the ranking for each of those NFTs to determine the drawing odds and configure the price to open the crate. And then others can come and spend gems on your crate and you earn the money. So why is this important? Well, it lets whales compose their tokens in order to increase their profits, which is something that's very important for the community. It also reduces the amortized cost of transferring large collections of NFTs. And finally, we can defeat unfair regulations against loot boxes and game mechanics through a censorship-resistant program. So let's go over to the demo. So here, what we have is we see a couple of crates that are available for buying. This one has 8 items in it. This one has 4 items in it. And this one is a little more expensive to open, but it seems like it has better stuff in it. So let's check this one out. So let's go ahead and click on this guy. And here we can see sort of this cool rotating cube, and we can see the different prizes that we could potentially get from within it. And cool, I think I want this prize, so let's try to get this one. We're going to need to buy some gems first, so let's buy some gems, and this should be pretty quick. So we've got some 10 gems now, and we can use those to open the crate. Let's try to open the crate and see what we get. And oh, we won this guy. It's just not very impressive, but we'll try again one more time maybe. Oh, we won this orange guy. I guess it's just not our day today. Well. Anyway, back to the presentation. So the crate features are basically that it is ERC 721 compatible. It also has sender access control that lets you control who can send items into the crate. And finally, you can configure custom opening logic so that with your own tokens, so that you can create fun new games possibly that are up to you. So what I accomplished in this hackathon, basically I designed and wrote the smart contracts for this, for top-down composable ERC 721, built it, tested it, deployed it to testnet, got basic testing completed and built a basic front end like you saw. And the future work would be to more thoroughly audit the security, optimize gas, get feature complete on the client and deploy to the mainnet, and finally add more pop to the game and work with the community to add more features, more different opener types, different games. So that's it. Thanks for listening to my presentation. That's NiftyCrates by.
Hey, yeah, so that was the video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Gervais. I work here at Braver Technology. Welcome to today's webinar about cybersecurity. Thank you for joining us.
I'll just mute him in the meantime. Looks like another video started playing on your end. But yeah, thanks for that demo. It's a really cool concept. I'll kind of start this off and I'll just ask sort of, have you kind of seen any other loot box approach apply to NFTs? And I'm just curious because this is the first one I've seen. So I'm wondering how you sort of got to this idea. And after that, I'll let the kind of Ashleigh, Justin, and Barney kick off with any questions and comments.
Yeah, sorry about that earlier audio. That was from the next YouTube video that autoplayed. But yeah, thanks for the question. Basically, what sort of drove me to this was I was an early player and developer on CryptoKitties, and we built this thing called Kitty Hats, which was a bottom-up composable, which you could attach a sticker to a CryptoKitty. But in this case, we were thinking of the reverse approach where you can put multiple different tokens inside of a box and then kind of finding an interesting use case for that. You know, one thing that I saw with CryptoKitties, the early sort of magic was based around the fact that you could get something random out of an interesting sort of system, and people found a lot of engagement around, like sort of figuring out how that system worked. And then my goal was to sort of replicate that same fun and that same sort of user experience where you get something out of a cool box or an egg. With this project in a way that was generalized, that kind of took multiple games into account, and then also sort of creating a way for different NFT games, like an entry point for different NFT games, because people usually end up playing just one. And what I wanted people to do was, try out multiple games, try out different games, and have a fun and interesting way to kind of liquidate the tokens that they get from these games, to other players to get them to try the other games. So that's kind of what the motivation was.
Awesome. Should we just hop in with our questions, comments, Kartik?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for this. This is interesting. One of the things I was thinking of as you were presenting was it kind of reminds me of like buying packs of Pokemon cards. Like maybe there's a Charizard in there, right? That was obviously hugely successful. So I guess I wasn't clear on what is I saw that you have to buy gems in order to open something. So what are gems, and what is the feature around opening it? Like, you can basically see what's in there beforehand. So it's not actually like you're buying a mysterious box of goodies.
That's right. So it's not a blind loot box in the sense that you can actually see inside of what's inside of it. You know, what you don't know is, what you know is what are the odds of hitting each item, but you don't know which one you'll get, obviously. And the gems are sort of this mechanic that I've created because in order to keep it fair and prevent front runners, what you need to do is ensure that there's sort of a two-phase commit process, which was sort of the same thing as in the CryptoKitties world. It was, oh, you sort of breed these two kitties. That was the first phase of the commit. And then somebody else would come and open or birth the kitty. And that was the second phase of the commit. In this case, each gem is sort of like a nonce, right? So you can generate a bunch of nonces for yourself, and then those are yours. And then you can use those to open a crate each time, and you'll sort of get something out of the crate. So that's kind of like a security measure wrapped in like a sort of fun game mechanic language to help people understand the game.
Very cool.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. What question I had was, you mentioned kind of custom crate opening logic, which sounds quite interesting to me. Like, what sort of ideas do you have for using that logic to kind of extend the mechanic beyond, I guess, kind of more of a lottery?
Yeah. So actually, the first goal was for the custom crate opening logic was really so that I could upgrade it in case there was a problem, and that the crate token itself would be upgradable to, you know, sort of help me fix any mistakes that I possibly made. But really what it lets you do is, if you own a crate, you can sort of set a specific contract that will say, hey, this is how this crate will be opened, and this is and basically that function has to return like one of the tokens from within that crate, and then that will be transferred to the winner, right? And you can customize and modify that logic. So if tomorrow we figured out a way to sort of do it without the two-phase commit, without using gems to do that, you know, if there was a secure way to open the crate in a single step, that would be very ideal. It would reduce one single transaction. So the first goal of that was to keep it open-ended so we could extend it in the future, fix things in the future. And the second thing is that, you know, I can envision other people making interesting games where, you know, you have to do a series of steps before you're allowed to open a particular crate in a game. And then, you know, so that's kind of like a sort of engagement mechanic to help guide you through the progression. That's just one example, but I'm you know, of course, you could pretty much write a smart contract for anything. So you could be like, hey, you can only open this crate if you own like so and so amount of this other currency or other token. Lots of different things are possible. Yeah.
I just want to say I really like the idea, especially with high mainnet gas costs recently. There's sort of the idea that a lot of cool NFTs have sort of been orphaned, or it's not, you know, worthwhile to just pass them around. So I was also wondering, on the back end, now that you already have this functionality for containerizing packs of NFTs, do you also see it being used as just like a way of managing those collections, that so people can easily, you know, organize and send without it being tedious?
Exactly. So one of the big improved things I found was, especially with CryptoKitties, right? It's very hard to batch transfer things, and then if you batch transfer collections repeatedly, that gas cost is very high. So in this case, what you can do is, you know, compose them all up, and then, you know, if you expect this collection to stay together for a long time, you can use that sort of to drastically reduce your transfer costs, and that helps a lot. So there is, of course, some cost to composing them, and there is some sort of minimum number of transactions that you need to do for the amortized cost to be cheaper. But basically, you're absolutely right in that composing the tokens allows you to, over time, you know, drive down that cost drastically, especially for a lot of tokens that make sense to sell together. So if I have a huge collection of, you know, aquamarine cats, you know, and I just want to sell that to a person who has no aquamarine cats, that makes sense.
Awesome. So we are at time. Ashleigh, thank you so much for being our first demo and telling us about NiftyCrates. And I hope you continue building this. So with that, we're ready to move on to our next team, and that is Project Digital Euro Stablecoin Protocol. So I know, Nino, you are on this call, so feel free to kick off with your demo and screen share.
Thank you. For ETHOnline 2020. Our project for ETHOnline 2020 is to build the world's first euro-pegged stablecoin. Today we are introducing D-Euro, a one-to-one collateralized stablecoin that is pegged to euro/DAI. It can be transferred freely and is always redeemable for an ever-growing amount of DAI. Get ready for DANK, the euro debanked. My name is Charles Steenstra. I'm the project manager. My team consists of Nino Nomad as contract writer, Ben Ng as primary backend developer, Kurogi Washu as primary front-end developer, and Yazid as the Web3 integration specialist. The digital euro starts with a simple, mintable ERC20 smart contract and can escalate quickly into a monster that requires dozens of additional functions, interfaces, and support structures. And our random team of 5 developers, we decided on the first day of the hackathon that we need to set a clear, realistic scope and a deployment to the Coven testnet in order to deliver a working proof of concept by the 21st of October. The digital euro should always keep its one-to-one peg to the current price of euro. Therefore, it is mandatory to have a few oracles. We used chain-link price feed oracles to determine the target price with DAI/USD and USD/euro. To keep the scope realistic, we set DAI as the first acceptable collateral to mint D-Euro. The manager.sol got the owner's rights for the digital euro.sol and acts as a constant primary market for D-Euro, as well as interacting via Web3 with our dApp front end. Like all other stablecoins, we realized early on that we require a secondary token that acts as a value support reserve and could be extended into other features later on. The digital bank DANK token is manually used to support stabilizing the euro peg for the proof of concept phase. To stabilize the peg, we rely on the constant primary market that always buys/sells the euro for the current spot rate of 1-to-1 euro. On the secondary markets, like Uniswap, the price will fluctuate, of course, providing arbitrage opportunities for any participant on the open market. Not fully relying on the market economics, we plan to run our own stabilizers to screen the markets for price variance and alerting us when the price deviates to levels outside of our tolerance. Automated countermeasures should be executed as follows, but are not yet implemented. The first is when D-Euro prices decreases. The stabilizer has an adjustable tolerance threshold for D-Euro falling below our acceptable limit. This lower price limit triggers the stabilizer to sell DANK and buy undervalued D-Euro from secondary markets until the price is back within the set threshold limits. Additionally, our protocol can burn the D-Euro that it has just purchased in order to decrease the total actual supply of D-Euro and increase the individual value of every available D-Euro. The second automated countermeasure triggers when the price of D-Euro increases. If the price of D-Euro increases above our 2% threshold, the stabilizer buys new D-Euro for the primary market for the value of €1 and immediately sells them on the secondary market for the higher price. The profits are going to be used to buy more DANK as future reserve to stabilize under evaluation. Additionally, this increases the overall supply of D-Euro and should also help to bring the individual price of each D-Euro back to its peg. Let me give you a demo of how it works. So here we have the exchange, a little bit of about page. I'm just going to show you one real quick example of just exchange. Then bam, you can't see it on the recording, but it shows up on the right. We also have a digital wallet, and below that is where you stake your stuff, along with about us links at the bottom. This proof of concept demonstrates several working core features of a Euro stablecoin. For further development and testing, we plan additional functions and security features. Raising seed capital to bootstrap liquidity pools would definitively kickstart the project to gain real market traction before we would launch on a live mainnet version. Check it out for yourself at digitaleuro.netlify.app. Our project for...
Awesome. Well, that was a lot going on here, and love the name. So I'll just let our judges go into questions.
So I'm actually curious, it might have just gone by me quickly, but for DANK to derive its value, the first thing that comes to mind, I think of it as analogous to like MKR, but for it to retain its value as a backstop, is it coming from, a right to like a revenue stream? Is it coming from, how does it provide that backstop? Like, what is the value to that? Is it governance?
Yeah, very good question. So we looked at all the stable coins and we realized that you need a secondary asset, right? So we looked at reserve rights token and MStable and of course at MakerDAO, how they do that. We want to incentivize users to provide liquidity and kind of airdrop Dank token to them for providing Uniswap liquidity. We wanted also, we realized that you need some kind of value, right? So we said if we are going to launch the Dank token, it's probably good if we have some kind of VC money or like some serious amount of money to give it some value. But later on, it would be similar to any other DeFi token in principle, like a SushiSwap token or whatever.
Additionally, you can redeem Dank tokens for when we're trying to correct the price downwards for excess digital euro that arises from the swaps, because when the price is way low, lots of people are going to be swapping in lots of digital euro so they can get that easy, quick arbitrage profit. And so when we need to lower the price, people who hold Dank can redeem their Dank for excess digital euro so then they can execute the arbitrage and take profit rather than us do the arbitrage. That also burns the supply of Dank, which kind of controls our issuance because the Dank gets burned up doing that. And it also incentivizes people to call the update function so we can do the automatic rebalancing because there's a profit motive on their part.
Awesome. I'm curious, you guys mentioned that, raising capital and kind of pushing the project forward. What else do you guys need to build to sort of fully round out this idea?
Well, we wrote the rebalancing logic and we got it working in testing as a prototype. But as we approached the end date, we started locking down all the kind of like mint functions and stuff. And there's real world testing is important. And also there's a revert somewhere in there and we have yet to find it. So we just need to kind of debug that and we should be ready to do some serious testing.
Great, thanks.
Do you have any other questions or comments?
Maybe the demo went a little bit short, so if you guys want to take a look at the demo in the remaining time.
Sorry, go ahead, Barney.
Yeah or no?
Sure. I was just going to sort of I was going to ask you in terms of obviously one of the biggest I guess risks with a stablecoin is whether or not it can maintain its peg over a long period of time and in all kinds of market conditions. What kind of thinking have you done about that, about sort of how the mechanics work in that sort of way, and what do you need to do, I guess, to take it from this kind of prototype to something that can be sort of launched confidently on a mainnet?
Yeah, sure. So we rely on two mechanics, right? So the first mechanic would be we have a strong primary market, which is our dApp, which is always issuing based on the current spot rate from the Oracle price. It's always issuing, buying and selling €, exactly for the price of €1. And then on the secondary markets, like we're using a Uniswap in this case, it could also be Balancer or other secondary markets later on. There's always this kind of price difference, which lets people arbitrage, right? So we kind of rely on that. And then we also looked at the keeper function. So what Ben was describing earlier, it's kind of similar to what the keepers with MakerDAO are doing. That so we are scanning the secondary markets permanently, and then that's also the part why we need Dank, because we need the Dank to sell and buy it to countermeasure if the price is fluctuating. But definitively, this is one of the biggest challenge currently everything is live on the Coven network, but this is really the challenge to test and audit everything before we would put this project on the mainnet.
And when you say you're always issuing, buying, selling euro, can you talk a little bit more about that mechanism? How does that actually work in practice?
Sure. So we have two main contracts. We have the collateral vault contract and the manager contract. And so the manager contract has an interface for doing swaps. So when people want to get new digital euro, they take their DAI and they lock it up into our manager contract, which sends it to the vault, which is something we'll talk about later. But and then they get minted an equivalent amount of digital euro at the spot price at that time, based on the Oracle, right? But in order to maintain one-to-one collateralization, right, there's the vault issues Dank when the vault, so what the vault does is it says, okay, there's this amount of digital euro out in the world right now. And then it says, this is what its value in DAI should be. And then it says, this is how much the vault has plus an extra fudge factor, because we want it's not feasible to be 1-to-1 directly. So we have to be like 125%. And then so using those numbers, it goes and sells an amount of dank tokens on Uniswap, which is why we require people to lock up their LP tokens, because the more liquidity that we have, the cheaper our loans are, basically.
Right.
So yeah. And then the manager contract tries to maintain the price on open markets by doing buys and sells to raise and lower the price appropriately of digital euro.
Cool. I would definitely want to look more into this like automated issuing, buying and selling thing. This is kind of cutting edge. So good job, guys.
Feel free to check the link, our GitHub, and also if you want, of course, hit us up for another Zoom call after this.
Great. So we are out of time, and we're ready to move on to our next project. So thank you so much, Nino and Ben. And next up, we have Chainnabis, who is already on this call. And so I know if the whole team is here, Solange, please feel free to share your video.
Yes. Hello, I'd like to do a cannabis plant manager using a Matic network and Binomic, but it's not working every. Here I have in Matic mobile, and I am in account where I don't have any Matic. So I will define the THC, THC and the CBD from a plant. So I will add a plant. The signature is okay, but I have another window, so it's not okay. If I try the same using the example, it's working. So I will put a test here. Here it's okay. You can check that it's okay. So test. Change 1 and change 2. I don't have time to do all the projects. This is my smart contract. So I'm using the meta transactions inside my smart contracts. This is the front end, and I use Remix to publish it, and I configured Chainnabis here in Biconomy. Is this?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us what you made for the hackathon. I'll kind of kick us off with a question. Was this your first time working with Matic and the other handful of APIs you used? And if so, like, what was that experience like?
Yes, it was my first experience. I hear about Matic before, but never doing nothing. About Matic, it was very easy because it's only configure the network in MetaMask like the others, so I don't have a problem with this. But I have problems with Biconomy because the tutorials and the documentation was hard for me. And beside of this, I was able to finalize the example from Binomic, but when I try to reproduce in my project, I can do it, and I don't know why. 3 hours before the our end time, I have problems in localhost, and I can't even test my smart contract. So I was very nervous, desperate, and I didn't finish all the projects. I'm very sad because this.
Well, that's okay, because you can continue to work on it and still get to where you wanted to actually finish and finish add those features. So I'm glad that you still submitted to the point where you got to finish before the submission deadline. And I'll also see if any of our judges have any comments or questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your submission. It's cool to see people playing around with layer 2 solutions. This is a topic that, you know, the whole Ethereum community is talking about. So I think you're kind of ahead of the curve on this. I'm curious, like, what's sort of like the aim of this project? What are you hoping to achieve in the cannabis industry or bringing blockchain into it?
In many countries, cannabis is not regulated, and it's very important for many uses, but almost for the medicinal uses. And the main goal is to have use blockchain to provide security, transparency, and quality assurance in this ecosystem, because in this way, the regulators can trust and can be allowed to use it in our country, in many other countries.
I kind of wanted to follow up a little bit on what Kartik was saying. Sorry, Ashleigh. So yeah, these legal cannabis supply chains are highly regulated. So I see a value in having a single source of truth that all parties can access. Do you want to continue working on this particular idea, or for you, is this more about the experience and the proof of concept, or it seems like there's a real application?
Yes, I'd like to still working with this. I was talking a bit before the hackathon about this with a person that needs to use cannabis and have a lot of problems. So it's a real problem for friends of mine. So it's important. I'd like to still working this and to do a real project.
If you carry on working with this, what do you think? Obviously, you've got a sort of a small problem with some of the technical integration to get solved, and I'm sure that'll be solved quickly. But once you get over that problem, what are the next features and things that you are excited to build for this?
Yes, I think we need to have more information, because I'm only having the THC and the CBD, but we have a lot of other information about a plant. It's like a seed, is like from another plant. It's I read a little about it, and to have a second part when we have a history of all actions that plant have, like the sun and the water and the other actions, and in the future you can have when the plant it was transformed in a medicinal way, and all the track about it.
Cool. Hope you managed to build some of those features and get something exciting working.
Yes, I'd like to do.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for demoing, and I hope you continue building this as well. So with that, we are ready to move on to our next team, and that is Project 6 Elements. So I think from what I know, they are having some technical difficulties. So what I'll be doing is I'll be playing the video on my end, and then the team will be here to answer questions over audio. So I'll get started on that momentarily.
latest from Project Create comes 6 Elements. It is an all-new NFT clicker style game. 6 Elements uses Chainlink's randomization oracle to bring tamper-proof RNG to the distribution mechanism. The goal of this game is to collect all gems from each element category. The 6 elements are light, earth, fire, water, wind, and dark. In order to redeem gems for a monetary prize, gamers must attain all gems in an elemental set. Each play, the user receives 2 randomly selected gems, while also contributing to the prize pool. Each gem has its own probability of being chosen. In the future, these same tokens will also serve as the foundation for crafting newer items in an upcoming Project Create game.
Master the elements. Collect them all.
That was an awesome video and a demo. So,
Yeah, it was. I love that voice at the end. That's great.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so this is 6 Elements. So it was built by Tomo and I. Yeah, our video is short and sweet. I guess I'll let you guys ask the questions then.
Cool. Your name is Pavel, right?
Paul, I also go by Julian.
Julian. Okay, got it. Sorry, I thought I saw that at the bottom. Okay, so sorry. Julian, so it says each player, or each time someone plays the game, they're essentially, I don't know, kind of like rolling for one of these gems. And then it said contributing to the prize pool. Can you talk to me about that in a little bit more detail? Is it basically like a luck thing, and then some portion of what they're paying to sort of spin the wheel or engage in this sort of randomized aspect, some portion of that is going to the prize pool?
That is pretty much it. So yeah, so there is a fee for the random. So we're using Chainlink to get the random number. There is a fee for that. So yeah, the users are going to pay a fee in order to draw 2 tokens. And then portion of that is going to be used to pay the Oracle, and then the other portion goes into the prize pool. So then if you manage to collect at least one of each token in an element, you're able to redeem it for some percentage of the prize pool. So we don't have the prize percentages. That's not final yet, but that's the main idea. And of course, different elements have different odds of being drawn. Light and dark are going to be the most rare. So of course, the prize is going to be the most significant with, in this case, dark and light are going to be the most significant prize. And yeah, the other elements are a little less, so if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like it's almost like a digital scratch card, sort of.
Sort of. Actually, I don't know if any of you are in Canada. I'm not sure if they're doing the promo in the States as well. But if you've been to McDonald's right now, they're doing the Monopoly contest. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. This is very similar to that.
Okay, cool.
Makes sense. And I like how you kind of built in the sustainability of paying your Oracle fees and everything through, each chance. Could you tell me more about, you guys hinted at the idea of how these things could, rather than just being used for prizes, when you combine elements, it might contribute, be useful in some way for a future game you're working on?
Oh, absolutely. So that's part of our philosophy, really, is that all the games we build, they're meant to be built on top of each other. So in the future, we want to make some sort of either strategy or RPG game, and these tokens could be used as materials to produce items in the other game. So this future game, for example, wouldn't really need any sort of monetization system at all, because we'd just be using tokens from 6 elements to produce items in that game, right? So that's really the general idea here. So this is intended to be a base of sorts.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that aspect of sort of like composably building up this sort of ecosystem of different aspects that can be combined into new games. That's a neat idea.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, if there are no more questions from our judges, I want to thank you and the whole team for kind of doing this awesome demo and a really cool video. And this looks really fun. So I'm excited to check this out after judging against today.
Me too. I'm feeling lucky.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect. So next up, we have TrafiGuard, Project TrafiGuard. So I think they're just being ready to be promoted. So TrafiGuard, as you come here on the panel, just feel free to kick off with your video demo.
Especially exporters have limited access to financing. Welcome to TrafiGuard, supply chain trade finance made inclusive, where we address a problem that a lot of small companies, especially exporters, have limited access to financing, and if it comes at high costs.
The biggest hurdles in trade finance are insufficient and inefficient credits for the sellers, and on the buyer side, it is the validation risk. And hence, there is a need for programmable trust for reducing buyer and financial risks and facilitating seller borrowing.
Let's go through an example. Let's say the buyer wants to buy goods from the seller to the right in the amount of $100,000. So first, both have to register with the TrafiGuard smart contract, and the seller, in addition, has to provide its digital identity to increase trustworthiness. Also, to increase its credit score, the seller has the option to provide additional financial information and also a bill of lading prior to departure of the shipment in order to have additional verifications which will be stored on the blockchain or proof of it. This way, from the deposited amount, which will be locked in the smart contract of 100,000 USDC of the buyer, the seller has the opportunity to take out a loan depending on its credit score, 10 to 50%. Once the shipment arrives at its destination, the deposited amount of the buyer will be cleared with the outstanding loan and sent to the seller. Also, the financier will receive a share. Let's take a look at the application.
Financier deposits the funds for purchase in USDC, which is locked as collateral using the Compound protocol. They can do so by clicking the purchase button, entering the amount, and locking the collateral. The seller will then need to register with the Bloom decentralized identification app and scan this QR code. Using this information and more from our trade finance oracles, the seller is assessed with a risk score, which in turn will give them increased access to a loan based on the financier's collateral. Our Chainlink oracles use this information to call external APIs and return a risk score collected by our underwriting contract. The risk score is then used to assess how much of a loan the seller may take against the financier's supplied collateral.
The buyers get the security that they need, and the seller gets an option to finance their working capital needs.
And this is the team to make it happen: Shane, Carlos, Satya, and Alexander. If you're interested, do not hesitate to get in touch with us.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'll kind of open it up for questions and feedback.
Yeah, that's. I think it's something really interesting. They were pulling together a number of kind of quite nice, so composable, not necessarily all DeFi, but some interesting primitives that give quite an interesting use case. I guess the question I have is, thinking about the kind of what happens if the loan goes bad. So how does the protocol or the thing you built deal with that case where the effectively the seller sort of doesn't turn out to be as creditworthy as the algorithm thought, and is there any kind of insurance mechanism built in?
Right. I'll start and Shane can add more. Basically, that is why we have a gradient of the risk. Number one, first of all, the digital identity. If they are able to prove them from a validation risk point, the risk reduction factor kicks in. And then there are other things we are kind of building through that external adapters to the account aggregator framework that now is able to get into the income tax returns. At least we will know if this is an audited financial that the company has, at least in the last year. Then the next set of checks that we do is this a really valid bill of lading? And that's a call. We're making it with the TradeLens Blockchain Consortium. Basically, we're kind of implementing their spec. So these are the series of risk APIs that it goes through to say this is actually the genuine borrower from a point of view of vetting them out prior to the loan. And after the loan, basically, there are protocols that we're thinking about on the DeFi side as well. And Alex can explain more about that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe to also conclude here, so you have to see that also from a buyer perspective, there's at the moment no really possibility to verify. And indeed, if something goes wrong, there is a loss, but it is foreseeable, or as we say, programmable, because we have a specific risk threshold, as Satya already described, that we can mitigate the risk. Yeah, and evaluate this risk score, and of course in the future we might also have some people wanting maybe to assure this. I mean, there are also insurance protocols. We didn't make use of it because of the time, but it would be also a possibility to include them and use third parties to insure the risks and maybe also group the risks and yeah, that they're tradable, some things like this. Yeah. But you cannot avoid it completely. There's always a risk, and we try to find a way to mitigate it or to find the right channels for that.
It seems to me like what your project is missing right now is underwriting. So right now, really, it seems like the buyer is sort of taking on most of the risk. You guys have built some tools around kind of surfacing what that risk is, but in a traditional financial transaction of this kind, there's someone that's actually like underwriting and taking on that risk between those two parties. So I would kind of think about that as you guys kind of continue to flesh out this idea. Maybe something like insurances would be a good addition to this. But I guess my question is actually around the identity process that you're using. So I saw that you use Bloom. How did you decide on Bloom? What do you think about using it? You know, how easy was it to integrate? What do you like about it?
And Shane, do you wanna?
I mean, the idea of Bloom is that you can. So the question is, how can we prove that it's really somebody or company or somebody in person? And with the Bloom ID, it got stronger over time, and you could share also that you are a real person. Bloom offers also to have a risk score added to it. So these are all things we could make use of. So this is why I decided Bloom is a good idea. Yeah.
Right. Also, some of the businesses we are probably looking for it. These are all predominantly proprietorship businesses at the low end of loans, which kind of has that personal kind of like a profile to them. So that is why we picked Bloom for that use case. And secondly, as the Bloom protocol actually matures, there are options to kind of take in documents and actually extract information from the documents. So articles of incorporation to credit scores to others, we can easily put in. So that's what our understanding was. Bloom has increased over the last 2-3 weeks. Whatever we could integrate readily available, we have already done that. And there are a few attestation frameworks that we can easily build on, particularly bill of lading, trading documents, as well as some of the financial audits.
Cool, thanks.
And maybe also to add here, it's about inclusion of those who do not have access to financial markets yet, because so it's difficult for them if you don't have a banking relationship. How do you give proof? And this is where we think that by using Bloom, where you can everybody has a possibility to increase trust. It's a good start, especially for this inclusion case.
This is predominantly, it was important because either it takes a much longer two-side banking kind of like a flow right now. And for 30-day, 60-day loans, the time it takes to get the loans is much higher. That's first. The second part, in some situations, more than 60% of it in the developing countries, the sellers really are not in the system, and hence they go to the local lenders, and the interest rates are very, very high.
Great. So we are out of time. Thank you so much for sharing all of those answers, and I hope you continue building the project. Okay. So with that, we are ready to move on to our next team, and that is Project Inherichain. So I believe they're on this call already. So whenever you're ready, feel free to kick off with your video.
My name is Shebin John, and today I want to introduce you to Inherichain, inheritance in wallet. So why I wanted to create this project is because in the traditional wallet, the wallet is created using a seed or a private key. If by any chance we lose it, there is no other way to regain the access to the wallet. So the funds are lost forever, and even experienced users can have these problems. If there are some solutions with some good UI, most of them are custodian wallets, which require us to trust someone else. And finally, the main problem, the inheritance. There is no option to pass our assets which are saved in Ethereum to our heir. It is either lost, or if we are using a custodian solution, maybe after a long period, they take. So how the claim process works. The owner has to specify the heir and some approvers at the time of the creation of wallet contract. After the demise, the heir can start the claim process. The approvers can expedite the approval time. Once the approvers approve, or after a certain deadline, the heir can access the contract with a new set of heir, a backup owner, and new approvers with newer deadline if the person wants to change it. Currently, the project is on an alpha scale, and the basic implementation of the smart contract is complete. Thorough testing is also being done. A basic front-end design is completed along with its supporting backend. Thank you. Now let's move on to the demo. So now let's look at the demo. This is our homepage. We have the option to deploy a new wallet as well as interact with an already deployed wallet. Let's see the deploy wallet. We have the option to add an owner, the backup owner, the heir, the approvers, the deadline, and an approver deadline. Now let's look at the interact tab. Here we can put the wallet contract address which we have already deployed, and we can see the current status. And based on that, we can have different functions, like we can deposit Ethereum, we can update the backup owner, we can update the heir, we can add or delete an approver, we can update the deadlines, we can transfer it to some other addresses, or withdraw a particular amount of it, or even all of the ETH. These are advanced functions where we can interact with other contract as well, or deploy another contract through this contract where the current wallet contract will be the owner. This is a view for the backup owner, and this one would be the view for the heir. Currently all these views are in a single page for demo purposes. So this is how the heir can claim the ownership. It doesn't have to pass any values, but when it would be approved, or when it comes the time for the heir to access the wallet contract, person has to provide the new details: backup owner, heir, the approvers, the new deadlines, etc. And then we have the approvers who can approve or reject NAV. So let's deploy a new wallet contract. So now we have filled the details. Let's submit. As soon as we submit, the MetaMask opens up. You have to confirm the transaction, and the transaction is complete and the wallet was successfully created. This is the address, we have to keep it. Now let's interact with this wallet. As soon as I click the interact button, it will show some details. Due to the time limit, I can only show this much. My name.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the demo was actually of 16 minutes, but I had to cut short into 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's hard. I kind of wish we had more time for some of these things. But okay, so I guess how did you? I'm kind of like reading through the description as we go through this. Do I have this right that if there are 3 approvers for anyone that, you know, let's say someone passes away and the inheritor has to call the function to initiate the inheritance to happen, and then there are 3 approvers. 2 of those approvers at least have to, you know, sign the transaction in order for the money to be sent to the inheritor. What if the inheritor doesn't know that they're the subject of this inheritance? Can anyone call the function for it to be inherited?
Yeah, so the thing with the current system is like, if I have an Ethereum address, I can't give my private key to the like if they go bad, they can take the Ethereum assets right away. So I can also can't trust any lawyer with the private key. This is also the same concept. So
Right.
I wanted to create a platform for that, so that it can be shared right away, but can't be accessed directly. So if like I am alive and the heir tries to claim for the ownership, it can't do that. Like I can, there is a deadline for that, like a timeline for it. And I didn't got the time to integrate any kind of push notification or something like that. That was the idea. So as soon as a notification is received, I can just like change the heir if I don't like his behavior, or I can reset the claim process and ask him not to do that again. And currently the approvals work is just to expedite the process. Like there are 2 deadlines. One is for the normal deadline, like for by default it is 30 days, and for if the approvers approve, there is 7 days for them for the heir that he can claim it immediately after a week. So that is comparatively fast if we compare it to a bank or something like that. And in the future, I was thinking of like integrating something like a dispute resolver like Leroux. For like if there comes a situation like if the owner and the heir both meet with a tragic accident, then that money can be even transferred to something like Bitcoin or some grant programs or something in the Ethereum ecosystem. So just my philosophy was not to lose any more Ethereum assets.
Cool. I like this. This is a good solution.
I just want to, I think Ashleigh addressed a lot of great questions about how it all functions. And I just want to say I think it's an area that needs to be addressed. And it would be cool to see you explore the idea further. As a parent, this is actually something I've given a lot of consideration to. And there aren't any great solutions. I mean, they all really involve relying on external third parties. This does to some extent, but I think I can already see, how you're planning to add additional layers to it and other contingencies. So I would love to see you explore more. It's really cool.
Thank you. Any more questions, guys?
How I guess the sort of the thing I've been thinking about is the kind of the approver side of things and the deadlines. Is there how do you deal with sort of how do you think about setting the deadlines and running the approval process so that it's not too long, but it's not too at risk of kind of being subject to some kind of attack? Like for instance, if someone was ill long term, then the deadlines could expire and someone could the heir could maybe take advantage. How would you deal with that kind of situation?
Yeah, so I actually have thought about that as well. So, even if there is a thing like a health crisis like that, they can immediately change the deadline. Or I was also thinking about it was not just entirely for this one, but also regarding the gas cost and the security. Like for some, they have a wallet which is in Ledger or Trezor, and they don't do transactions with that, but they actually sign transactions with that, and then they relay that transaction to the network. So something of that sorts can be done with the thing you are asking. If there is some sort of terminal illness or something like that, they can increase the deadline to an year, to maybe half an year, something like that. But yeah, that is a good question. I would think about more that.
Amazing. Well, I hope you keep working on this, and feel free to share us with an update on kind of what happens after this event ends. So thanks again for presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to
feel free to contact.
We are ready to move on to our next demo, and that is Team Catalog. So Team Catalog, whenever you are ready, feel free to kick off with your video.
Hello and welcome. Our project is called Catalog. Catalog empowers artists with greater control in monetizing their work and community through the use of artist tokens. These artist tokens can be used to unlock rewards, exclusive content, and even revenue share for supporters. So as a fan of an artist, I can come in and purchase an artist's work that they've uploaded, and I'll receive tokens in exchange for that. And these tokens can be used to unlock all sorts of things. In the case of this hack, we're experimenting with the idea of revenue share. So we've built Catalog on top of Audius protocol. So you can log in with your existing Audius account, and we'll import all your information, not only about your profile, but we'll import your tracks as well for easy upload for artists that already have accounts on Audius. And then we're using Textile as a database for other information that we don't have through Audius. And so we are now logged in. You can see our account information through Audius, and we'll go ahead and upload a track. So artists can upload and sell their work on Catalog for whatever price they choose. You can see we just uploaded this existing track that already exists in Audius, and we'll go ahead and create it and close that window. And now you can see that that has been added to this artist's catalog. And we can view that song. So we'll hear a snippet now. So as a listener, we can come to Catalog and explore an artist's catalog. We can view their music and decide on a song to purchase. Upon purchasing, listeners not only receive a download of that song, but they'll receive artist tokens proportional to the amount that you spend. So you'll see if we edit the price field here, you're going to see the token amount that you receive change. Right now, we're using a curve that's just 1-to-1. So if you spend 5 DAI, you're going to receive 5 tokens. But we're working on a curve that is proportional to not only the amount you spend, but when you spend it. So earlier supporters are going to be rewarded with more tokens than later supporters. See here, here's a receipt after we purchased it. You can see 90% goes directly to the artist, 10% is going to go to all of this artist's supporters through this revenue share pool. So we'll go ahead and download this track because that's part of what we get when we purchased it. And then also, if we want to start earning revenue from this artist, we can go ahead and stake these tokens. So we'll send this transaction through MetaMask. If we had more time, we were looking to integrate Audius's native wallet Hedgehog, but we just didn't get around to it this time, so we're using MetaMask. So now you have successfully staked those tokens, so we can go to our dashboard to see sort of an overview of the different artists that we're supporting. And you can see that for Appa, who's an artist that this user supported previously, they have 13 tokens being staked. So they are earning that proportional share of Appa's revenue. And Crown Comfort below, we have our balance. That transaction hasn't gone through yet, but that stake number will go up to 5 once that transaction confirmed. So that's Catalog. And really what we're trying to do with this project is allow creators and their communities to realize more of the value that they create amongst themselves. And there are really limitless possibilities to what a token might enable a community to do. And because catalog tokens are ERC20, the rewards could potentially be extended beyond the limits of our particular front end. One idea we have for soon down the road is allowing tokens to be spent like credits in an artist store. And we'll continue to explore other unique incentive mechanisms and models to see how we can best recycle value back into these communities. We hope you get a chance to check out the app, and thank you for listening to our demo. Thanks.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this is super cool. It's kind of like adding almost like a patronage model into buying music, right? Because you're not just, you can actually pay more than you maybe think the album is worth if you think that this is a fantastic album and there's sort of like an up and to the right future for this artist, which is really cool. I think this is great. What were some of the biggest technical challenges that you guys faced putting this together?
Hey, so this is Jeremy. Thanks for the kind words. One of our biggest challenges by far was stitching together the metadata that we were getting from Audius and kind of adding our own textile backend on top of that. Audius handled most of the data we needed, like profile data, username, ID, handle, track information, CIDs for where to get that tracked file. But trying to get Audius to communicate with Textile was a bit of the challenge because Textile isn't a relational database. So we were having to do all these kind of like spaghetti queries, tying this information together on the client side in a way that made it look presentable on the UI. So you weren't getting terrible load states, but making sure that we had all the information that we needed to update our database and present the user with that data.
Very cool.
I think this is super cool. One thing I'm curious about, you envision a lot of flexibility for how content creators can use these tokens. How much handholding do you envision to sort of drive them to models or ideas that you think works? Like, is it going to be sort of a few jumping off points? Like, where do you draw the line with that customization?
So right now we're only doing this with tracks or songs, but the vision is that you would be able to extend that to any kind of digital content. So whether that's an album, sample pack, project file, music producer racks, that kind of thing, you could really enable them to put up any kind of file and let them set a price for that either in DAI or in their own artist token. So all native in the site, the vision is that listeners could pay both in DAI and in the artist token to receive content. And with it contained within the site, that would more or less be the initial vision. But these these artist token contracts could really be implemented on any front end. And it's kind of like an out of the box creator token that forces all DAI to go through this contract in order for you to get creator tokens out of it. And with those, we've seen things like, requiring a certain threshold of creator tokens to be held to enter a Discord. But really, since they're programmable ERC20s, we would hope that creators could take these tokens to other platforms and use them there as well. I
think to add on to that, it's likely that artists use what we allow them to use as far as rewards, some things that we enable within our platform. But a tech-savvy user could come in and enable a Discord channel, for example, to specific users that just happen to own their token. And we wouldn't really have any control over whether they can do it because it's an ERC20 token. So we have plans to integrate a lot of different reward options for artists, but a savvy user could integrate things on their own as well.
I was just going to say, I think one thing that I like about this, other than it's a really beautiful design and everything works, is you are not bootstrapping again from scratch. You're leveraging this and building it on top of Audius, and that makes it a lot easier for people and artists to try this out. Whereas in most other scenarios, you have the problem of convincing somebody to try out your platform and move the audiences with it. So I really like that aspect here. So if there are no more questions, I think we can move on to our next demo. I want to thank Catalog for sharing that video, and I hope that you share this thing with others too. Check out the showcase channel on our Discord.
Thanks so much.
Perfect. So I think the next team is up here and ready, and the next team is Creaton. And whenever you are ready. David?
One of our teammates.
Yes, yes, I'm ready, Matt.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
I'm all good. All right, I'll start sharing.
For our hackathon submission, we built Creaton, a decentralized permissionless platform for creators to host encrypted content that their supporters can gain access to via streaming stablecoins. We think a platform like Creaton could help any content creator to capture value from their supporters without the problems that come with unnecessary middlemen or centralized services. The way it works is a creator signs up, providing their name, an avatar image, and a stablecoin denominated subscription fee that would cover a specified time period. At that point, the fee is sent to the creator's contract as collateral, and if the supporter decides to ever unsubscribe, she will receive a refund of her collateral minus the fee based on how many blocks have surpassed since she subscribed. Simultaneously, a unique ERC20 creator token is issued back to the supporter proportionate to the amount that they have contributed. For the content encryption and hosting component of the app, I'll pass the mic over to Sina.
So for transferring the data on Creaton, we don't use any sort of centralized server, and everything works P2P and encrypted. But we use textile buckets, textile threads, and textile mailboxes to store the data persistently on IPFS, the encrypted data, and also the keys. We use textile mailboxes to send over the encryption keys from creators to subscribers. Basically, upon signing up, we create a textile public key for each creator, which is shown here, and then the creator chooses the content and uploads it to a textile bucket. This takes a little while, and we get the IPFS link, and this is the key that should be sent to each subscriber. Now, if we create a new subscriber, a different user, we set up again and get the public key. Yes, we're good. And we copy the public key, give it to subscriber, and the IPFS pass. And we send over the keys to the other user. Keys are sent right now. So keys right now are basically in the mailbox of this public key or this subscriber, which should be fetched from the smart contract. And now to download the file, the subscriber gets the link from inside the contract, and they can decrypt the file and download it. So this is the encrypted file, which is on IPFS. This is the same key that this creator used to encrypt the data. And the file is downloaded, decrypted, and can be shown.
All right, that
Awesome.
was it.
Thank you for that, Timo. And I'll I'll let some of our judges come in with comments and questions.
I'm just curious, so given more time, how do you envision adding to this platform, and what is like the fully baked, fully realized goal that you'd like to see with this long term?
So yeah, we still had to add the payment part. So that will be done with Superfluid. So with that, you can stream your USDC, and basically, as long as you have enough USDC in your wallet, you will keep streaming it. And once you don't have enough, the subscription stops and you won't get access to any new content. Then we also wanted to add creator tokens. So each creator can create their own token. And we didn't really want to use something like a bond curve token, but something more like you buy a percentage of the existing tokens, and you get that percentage as as a percentage of the profit. So if you buy 10% of the tokens, you get 10% of the profit. And yeah, I think that would make more sense than a bonding curve token. And yeah.
That makes sense. Support the artist up front, but then receive like a portion of subsequent subscription fees. Cool.
Yes.
Another thing that we were thinking about adding is, or that we would definitely like to add is a identity component and hopefully like a reputation system. So being that we're allowing creators to essentially sell encrypted content that could get into some pretty hairy ethical territory. So having like a reputation system, I think, would be pretty key to managing things.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, very cool. I'm curious, like, what are your kind of backgrounds? Like, how did you come up with this idea? Are you guys kind of new to the space, or are you guys experienced? This looks really good so far.
Yeah, so I actually had the idea like 2 years ago at the hackathon. Yeah, at a different one, and I kind of changed the ID, but like back then, like Patreon kind of had some like issues with like they started banning creators that really weren't that like bad, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to create an alternative for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is definitely a problem that lots of people are talking about. I was just actually having dinner with a musician friend last night, and she was complaining that Patreon is just completely broken. So awesome that you guys are tackling this.
Yeah, I think this is very cool idea, and I think, like you say, sort of the Patreon side of things certainly needs a bit of competition from the decentralized side. I guess the question that I have is kind of how you think about kind of sort of the social element of things like Patreon and the kind of interaction between the creator and the user, and if there's any plans that you have to kind of bring that into this.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I personally, I am more excited for more streaming payment projects and just ideas, because I think this is a very interesting primitive that we haven't used too much yet, and I think we should. So I'm really glad that you're thinking about it that way, and I really hope that you kind of get the payments piece incorporated in your project soon. It should be really cool to have subscriptions that can be built by the millisecond or block time. So that's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for demoing, and I hope that you kind of get everything else in your to-do list finished fairly soon so we can try it out. And with that, we are ready to move on to our next project. So just as a heads up for judges, we have 3 more projects to go. And we talked about a break halfway through, but we kind of just ended up skipping that because we were ahead of time. So if you still need a break, we can do a quick one. But if not, we have 3 more projects to go, and we're happy to go with whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I can keep going.
Yeah, happy to carry on.
Awesome. So with that, I feel like the next team, Composable, is already here. So Composable, whenever you're ready, feel free to press play.
Here, if you head over to our build page.
Sorry, let me restart this a second.
Hello, I'm Tyler Goodman. I'm the front-end developer for the Composable project. Here's our website, which was built in React. So we have a simple landing page here. If you head over to our build page, you can see functionality to generate functions, and this pulls data off etherscan.io and pretty much just gives you the ABI for any contract. So we can pull things such as compounds contract and put it here, and then we get all their functions. So how this works is you just choose a function, you can edit its parameters, you can add more functions, and then once you're done doing this, you can finalize it, and then you come to this page, which is kind of just like a receipt of everything you had just built. You can have your wallet connected, in which case you can send these transactions to the composable protocol. And the front end will generate the bytecode that it will send. And just to show you what that looks like, you can click send here. And this is what will end up getting sent to the composable protocol, where it will execute this function based on what we had built previously.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the back end of composable. I'll begin by running a simple test which demonstrates the functionality. So basically what we have is a contract which executes arbitrary function calls on other contracts. And the way we do that is by specifying a certain encoding standard, which we've provided with the project. So what you see with a normal encoded call is the function selector followed by the call data. What you have with composable is instead you start with the address, the function selector, and the size of the call data, and then you add the call data. And the way that it's encoded makes it so that you can always know where your dynamic arrays end in a list of dynamic arrays. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. Yeah, so we interrupt the function selector mapping phase by using a fallback function in Solidity, inspired by the Diamond contract standard and proxy contracts and multi-sig wallets. It's something that's already in use today. So yeah, by using this assembly, we have a very small contract that can do arbitrarily many calls up to the limit of memory, of course. And yeah, there's going to be some interesting uses for this. In particular, we think it could save compound protocols, governance contracts, a lot of gas by not storing proposals into storage, but instead storing a Merkle tree composed of the KCAC hashes of each 32 bytes of a composed string of call data, including the addresses, selectors, sizes, Ethereum values, Ether values, and call datas. By doing that, you could potentially save, 10 words, 10 storage slots, which is, way better. You're
Awesome. Looks like the video ended.
Yeah.
Is this the screen share? Perfect. So this was really interesting, and there's a lot of things going on here. So what I'll do is I'll kind of seed off with a question. And this is Justin, something I saw you type in chat yesterday. Could you kind of just give us an idea of like how something like this thing can be used for flash loans, as you kind of mentioned?
Yeah. So kind of the way like the Aave flash loans work is there's a flash loan contract that uses like a request callback paradigm. So you send a request to Aave's lending pool for some asset. If they have it, they respond by sending you the balance and then calling a callback function. So the thing is, if you want to have some kind of custom functionality within that callback function, you have to deploy a new contract every time or have some kind of way of telling it what to do. So with composable, really, you could just have one contract. And as long as you encode the calls correctly, then it'll just execute them sequentially through a loop. And it can really do anything. And since it's a contract, it can call other contracts, of course. So yeah, it really makes it possible to do a lot of things, at least within a flash loan. People can build on top of that. And it's nice because in particular, the flash loans, you're not really using your own assets. I mean, you can incorporate that, of course. So it's a good like testing spot, because if for some reason your composed calls fail, then the transaction will still revert if it doesn't get the correct balance back. So it could even be tested, possibly on mainnet. I wouldn't want to launch it yet, but
Absolutely, no, that's very powerful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds very powerful, and also, I guess, in some ways quite scary. I guess the idea of kind of composing all these things together. You know, I check enough times when I want to send something to one address, and so the idea of kind of linking all these things up and sending them off in a sort of Hail Mary pass to the blockchain in the hope it's all going to work, I guess that's quite terrifying. So how have you sort of thought about that? And are there things you're thinking about how to model things out, or understand how the calls are going to go, or sort of test a sort of invocation of this?
Yeah, so one of the nice things from Pocket Network, which I'm gracious for what they provided to us, is they give us node access, in particular archival node access, which if you want to do something like that through Infura, it's going to cost, I don't know, $250 a month. So it's not really affordable to me personally. But with a forked instance of mainnet on Ganache, and then you can actually test all of your calls on what would be the actual regular blockchain data. Obviously I would encourage that before anything. But the one of the like unique ways about the way that the composable works is like you compose one call and then you can just like append it to the back of that, and then append it to the back of that. Like each call can literally just be put together like in a row, and it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I mean, I'm still working on it, but I got the single call to work, and now it's just a matter of making it loop through them.
What was the hardest thing to build this? It looks complex, but
I mean, the hardest thing was having to like finagle my way through assembly or Yule, but I actually found it pretty rewarding personally. So.
I'm a little curious about who you envision actually using this on the back end. Like, so I can see it. Is it just someone who has an idea for a flash loan and knows how to string together these primitives sequentially in a way that they think is going to have the anticipated result? And so do you envision this sort of democratizing access to flash loans and complex sequential actions like this for more moderately technical users?
Yeah, actually, like in particular with Aave, it kind of turns it into a margin trading platform in a way, because you can deposit an asset, borrow, swap for another asset, redeposit it, and then increase exposure to that asset. Alternatively, if you're in debt with a certain kind of asset, feasibly you could swap that debt for another asset, which would expose you to two different things at once. So it really does introduce weird things,
Very cool.
Amazing. Well, if there are no more comments, I want to thank all three of you, Tyler, Angela, and Justin, for doing this demo. And I hope you continue working on it because at best, we just get a really good tool to test out, to just kind of get this for testing purposes. If we're not all comfortable with mainnet deployment on testing these strategies out, but some of us do not like to test on prod. So
thank you.
There we go. That's it. Thanks again. And we are ready to move on to our second last demo for the day, and that is Team Poolbet. So the team is already here. So whenever you're ready, feel free to share your demo.
All right, thank you. Let me know if you can hear the audio. It should be good.
We are not able to hear it.
Oh, here, let me all right, we should be all set. Hi, we are Poolbet, and we have a concept that takes pool together's prize pools for no-loss lotteries, and now it takes it and turns it into a no-loss sports betting game with friends. Essentially, our idea is that friends join into a league, they bet on games that are available in that league, they are scored on their performance, and then the best performing bettor at a set time interval is ended up with getting that money in the end. So if you look at our code here, we have one public address, which is the owner. To clarify, I'm sure you may have seen in our GitHub that we actually were not able to finish this. We are very new to Ethereum, and so unfortunately we weren't able to get this, but we were following kind of just learning about it, learning the development process of Solidity and getting used to it. And so I'm going to explain the basic structure that we have here, and that's about it in terms of the substance of this presentation. So the public address owner, that's the owner of the contract. Then we've got a bettor, which tracks their score, how they're doing. We've got a structure for a match that details each match. And then we have mappings for the bettors. We have an array of the addresses there so we could iterate through them. And there's a mapping for the matches that are in the event as well. Below here we have functions that are intended for the owner. So if it's only the owner calling it, so for example, say they wanted to add a bettor to the league, it would obviously require that the message sender is an owner. We have a place bet public function that is enabled for bettors, and essentially here is how it would work. They would be calling in the match ID they want to vote on and the team, and it would then process the code, make sure the bettor is in the actual smart contract, and then it would push their bet into the correct match structure. And we got the side match. Find winner would be called at the end of the time interval to clarify who won. And we definitely intend on finishing this project in the coming weeks or months, depending on how everything goes. But we definitely think that we have something interesting here, and unfortunately we weren't able to finish it due to a lot of time constraints. We didn't have any common time to work together on this, but yeah, we hope to do more with this, and we think we did a fair job for what we have. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I want to still congratulate you on submitting and still doing this judging today. And I'm glad to hear that you're planning on continuing to work and finish what you wanted to do initially. So I'll kind of open it up for any comments or questions from our judges.
I'd like to say that I'm glad you guys are continuing to do this because people would absolutely use it. In fact, I don't remember the exact thing. I think it might have been Final Four basketball last year. I remember a chat where people are talking about like, well, how can we, not specifically use this pool together mechanism, but custody funds for a bet. I'm curious, like down the line, would you want to add a layer of complexity to have the actual like Oracle integration so that the results are verified? Because how would you actually get the payouts? Is it all just like gentlemen's agreements in this circumstance?
Right. Yeah. So in this circumstance, it would basically be like one group of a friend would basically be the owner of the contract. And so it was a very like limited scope because we were new to it and we wanted to set something that was like somewhat achievable. But when I was originally thinking about it, like I wanted to, integrate it with oracles and have it fully decentralized to where it was all running, where it could literally just be fully autonomous. You can fully trust it. It's trustless. That's the end goal. But if we get there, I don't know, but that's what we would want to achieve for sure.
Mike, hope you guys keep building it. It's cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very cool. And welcome to the Ethereum community. I'm curious, like what was, you mentioned that you're new here, but what was kind of the most important thing you learned throughout this process, and maybe the most difficult thing you struggled with?
I would say just the kind of concept of Solidity development, because I never programmed in a language before that works the way Solidity does, and kind of the concept of a smart contract. It was very cool to see how you can interact with the contract and the way everything works. It was all new to me, but now that I have an idea of it, like I'm kind of open to the possibilities with Ethereum, which is really exciting.
Do you think you'll keep building stuff in Solidity, or are you like, this is too much?
No, I like it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a bit complex for where we're at. Like I do think it kind of confuses me, but I think as I keep learning, I'll definitely get more and more excited to keep building.
Awesome. We'll hope you stick with it. Good job on, great first effort here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Ethereum, and I hope to see you in future ETHGlobal events as well.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Perfect. So with that, we are ready for our last demo for the day. And I'm excited for this one. So Secure Finance, you are here. So whenever you're ready, feel free to kick off with your demo video.
Hello. Okay, let me play video. Hello everyone, we are building a project called Secured Finance. We provide credit risk-free blockchain-based finance focusing on Filecoin, Ethereum, and USDC. We use Ethereum smart contracts to manage collateral and provide automatic margin call. Traditional banks are making transactions over interbank networks such as SWIFT for currency transfers. There's no central controller, so the interbank network has already been decentralized. So our concept is to replace middle office and back office with smart contracts and deploy interbank system onto the blockchain. We build yield curve and decentralized OTC markets such as FX block trades, term loans, cross-currency swaps. The problem of current DeFi is that we can't sell 10 million Ether through an exchange because it will crash the market. We solve this issue by providing a stability and liquidity. Also, we don't have yield curve yet, so we can't hedge future cash flows, and that's why large corporates are slow. So yield curve opens up the full-scale financial transaction capability. So what's the full-scale financial transactions? When I say a financial transaction, it simply means a collection of future cash flows. Loans are basic form of all complex transactions. You borrow money and you have to pay coupons and return the money at the end, but you probably have to provide collateral to begin. And deposits are just a flip side of loans. You may want to request collateral. Interestingly, if you combine a loan and a deposit, you can make a swap transaction. In swap, you don't need that much collateral because both cash flows will offset. This gives the best efficient use of collateral. We can roughly provide 10 times leverage for swap trades. One example of swap is that clients can aim for profits from different interest rates between two currencies. In this example, clients can aim for 7% of carry. We built loan market for HackFS and we added swaps at ETHOnline. Our mission is to bring fiat currency into crypto economy by giving more business opportunity to institutions. Lots of second layer services can connect to the primary layer institutions. Let's talk about how we built it. Key components are built using smart contracts. So we created these contracts and designed the whole banking business operations as finite state machines. Here's a sequence diagram stored in our Git repository. Here's a UI components. We don't need to log in. Lastly, here's pros and cons of our service. We enabled cross-currency swap and hope to help traditional banks to add a new profitable asset class to their business without integrating new system. Thank you very much, and here's our demo. Here's money market view, and this is a loan market. You can select country, currency, then select fixed terms. Now 6 months is selected, then we can switch borrowing tab to lending tab. It also includes peer ID, so if you have a whitelist, you can select your counterparty. And here is the swap view. First, you select fixed term and select currency pairs for cross-currency swap. On the left is Filecoin and we can receive 8.1%, while on the right is USDC and we pay 0.12% interest rates. So the swap works like borrowing USDC and invest in Filecoin to achieve carry trade. On the right half shows interest rates for each currency, and the purple color shows currency yield spread. This carry trade strategy is one of the most popular investment strategy among hedge funds and private banks. We think cryptocurrency provides great opportunities for investors because fiat currencies' interest rates are nearly zero. What's more powerful is that we can leverage this carry trade. 10 times leverage enables 80% of return on collateral assets in this example, which is extremely profitable, and this has only been available to high net worth individuals, but we make it accessible to everyone. Then here's the trade history. We can filter, sort, and check the payment schedule and trade status.
Awesome.
Hello.
The UX looks really nice. Looks very
much.
professional. So great job on that. I'm curious, why the big focus on Filecoin? It looks like this is something that could be used for lots of different things, but it seems like you guys mostly focus on Filecoin.
Actually, it started from HackFS. So I talked with one and I wanted to support a Filecoin ecosystem because just before mainnet launch, I was concerned about the price fluctuation and caused by the big miners, and they might want to sell a big amount of Filecoin. And yeah, so yeah, that's the beginning.
Okay, but could you see this expanding to kind of other assets as well?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One thing I'm,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have USDC, so basically we have capability of handling ERC20 currencies. So.
Nice.
You mentioned the goal of trying to bring these tools to traditional financial institutions. Have you given any thought to privacy in terms of these organizations that might have to worry about regulatory compliance in terms of maintaining their own data privacy and that of their clients?
Yes, actually, I already talked with regulatory authorities. I keep discussing with it, and they were wondering how we achieve like a preserving privacy, but at the same time we have to like give them a traceability. So one way is to use a DID, and then we can like create a tool to like partially disclose our identity, not like a whole identity, but it's enough that we have license or we're in US or something like that. So it can like screen the clients or peer-to-peer. So I think that will help.
Cool. Oh, very cool. And how, I guess at the moment, this looks like there's no sort of price determination, is that right? It's kind of institutions sort of pick and trade together, or is there kind of like an order book or?
So initially we try to use Oracle, but it turns out the price is not executable because of the lack of the sites. So we decided to create market by ourselves. So the loan market is a very important thing because it's a source of yield curve. It's a reference because basically that's the Oracle, and we want to provide this price Oracle to other external worlds. And yeah, to achieve financial stability. So right now we're talking with Ethereum Foundation, Filecoin Foundation, or Filecoin miners. So institutional level players get together and exchange their like large size together, and always keep showing the price. Means we can stabilize the market price fluctuation, and that's the important thing to grow the whole entire crypto economy.
Cool. So it's kind of like a quote-based market, is that right? So they're showing a quote kind of all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the next kind of thing? What's the next step for this? Like if you're going to build it out further, what's the next sort of features you'd be adding?
Yeah, next feature will be zero coupon bond. So basically we have loans, lots of cash flows. We can decompose into many zero coupon bonds. Then we can recompose again to create something interesting investment products so that we can sell this product to banks, and the bank can sell this product like a structured deposit to their end clients. So I'm very excited to have like build this one.
One last thing I'm curious about. At the beginning, you mentioned that you have unique curves that will allow for lower volatility for high value transactions. How are you achieving this?
Yeah, so we have an incentive mechanism to market participants to show the narrow spread and bigger volume. So we have automatic margin call system, and when the trigger is happened, then liquidity provider is nominated, and they have like a 20% like a profit. I mean, chance of making profit by purchasing with discounted price. That came from the penalty of the automatic liquidation. So we put some incentive mechanism into that so that liquidity provider can always show the best price.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Senchi and Dylan, thank you so much for presenting and being patient until you were next on the queue. And also congrats on still continuing to work on your HackFS project. It's always great to see people kind of continue this stuff. And you've been working on this thing since July. And that's really awesome to see that the interest and the progress has been really great. So thanks again. And with that, I want to thank all of you for being here and just kind of helping watch the demos, and for our judges, thanks again for your time today. I know a handful of us are in different time zones, so thanks for making this thing work. So with that, I want to kind of close off this call. And thanks again to Ashleigh, Barney, and Justin for looking at all of our teams. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see each of you tomorrow for the remaining demos.